There is a fundamental difference between asking and decreeing, and that difference may be the reason why many people remain in the same place, year after year, even doing everything they think is right. Asking implies absence. Assume that what you want is outside of you, distant, depending on external approval to come into your life. Decreeing, on the other hand, presupposes possession. Assume that what you desire already exists in the invisible field, and that your word has the power to bring you into visible reality. This distinction is not just philosophical. It has scientific, spiritual, and practical roots that completely change the way you relate to the creation of your own reality. To understand why the decree works in a way that the petition will never work, it is necessary first to understand something about the nature of consciousness and the universe in which you are inserted. At the deepest level of reality, there is only one consciousness, an infinite, intelligent, creator and conscious field that some call God, others of Source, others of Supreme Intelligence, quantum field, or universal consciousness. The name doesn't matter. What matters is to understand that everything that exists, matter, energy, time, space, thought, and emotion, emerges from this unique field. And here is the point that changes everything. You are not alone within this consciousness. You are that consciousness expressing yourself in an individual way. Before continuing the topic, I want to invite you to subscribe to the Co-Creative Mind channel. Click on the sign up button, activate the bell, and leave a comment below answering this question. What is the first sentence of the I am that you are going to start decreeing from today in your life? Right here before continuing. Universe, surprise me. Imagine the ocean. It's made up of countless drops of water. When you remove a drop from this ocean, does it stop being water? No, it's still water, with all the properties that water has. The difference is only in proportion, not nature. You are that drop. And the ocean is the universal consciousness of which you are a part. This means that you do not have a fragment of the universe's creative power. You are a complete expression of that power on an individual scale, just like a hologram, where each piece contains the whole image. You carry within you the totality of what this greater consciousness is. This understanding is not arrogance. It is recognition of what you really are and the power that you truly have. And when this is clarified, the question naturally arises. Why do so many people still live far below what they could possibly live for? Why do so many continue in a cycle of scarcity, worry about monthly bills, postponement of dreams, lives that seem smaller than they should be? The answer lies in what people do with the power they have. Most people use the power of consciousness to create more than they already have, good or bad, and it does so completely unconsciously, repeating thoughts of limitation, scarcity, indignity, and wondering why reality continues to reflect exactly that again. Because the creative field is neutral. He does not judge, he does not select, he simply responds to what you inform him with his thoughts, emotions, deep beliefs, and his predominant inner state. What you think over and over again, what you feel intensely, what you believe deeply, all of this is constantly informing the field about what you are ready to live. And he delivers exactly that. If you report a shortage, you receive a shortage. If you report a limitation, you receive a limitation. If you report abundance with genuine conviction, not as a weak desire, but as an inner certainty, the field is reorganized to reflect that abundance in your concrete reality. This is not vague mysticism. It is the real workings of how creation operates. And there is a tool that activates this process more directly, more powerful and immediate than anything else you've learned about manifestation. This tool has two words that seem simple on the surface but carry a depth that very few people really understand. I am. Before explaining the full mechanism behind these two words, it is necessary to understand why the petition blocks what the decree releases. When you pray asking something, when you say, I want that, I need that, please grant me that, you are automatically confirming for the field you do not have. You are reporting absent. And the field, which responds to its inner state and not to its words itself, organizes reality around more absence. There is a verse in Mark 11:24 that makes this absolutely clear. He says that whatever you ask in prayer, believing that you have already received, will be granted to you. The criterion is not the request. The criterion is the belief that he has already received, that he already has, that he already is. That is the difference between asking and decreeing. Whoever asks is looking out, waiting for something to arrive. He who decrees is looking inward, taking possession of what already exists in the invisible field and summoning this to visible reality with the force of his conviction. It's like the difference between looking at a seed in the package, waiting for it to grow, and planting that seed in the right soil, watering, and knowing with certainty that it will germinate. At the time of planting, the process has already begun. You still do not see the plant, but it is already being generated. The invisible force is already in action. Your decrees work in the same way. The moment you decree with genuine conviction, something begins to move in the invisible field. You may not yet see it in the material world, but the process of manifestation has already begun. The only limit that exists in this process is within you. It is in the moment you believe that you can receive in how much you think you deserve at the level of certainty with which you hold what you have decreed. If your faith has the nature of a mustard seed which has no doubt about what will become, you will move mountains, not because words have magic, but because the inner certainty that accompanies them informs the field with a clarity that leaves no room for anything other than the manifestation of what has been decreed. And that's exactly where the most powerful decree comes in. The decree of the I am is not a technique among many others. It is the fundamental mechanism by which consciousness creates reality. And understanding this in depth changes not only what you do, but who you are in the process of manifestation. When Moses asked God what his name was, the answer he received was one of the most powerful ever recorded in any sacred text of any spiritual tradition in the world. God answered, I am what I am, not a name, not a title, not an external description, pure existence, the being in itself, the conscious creator principle identifying itself with the only thing that truly is, the consciousness that exists, that creates, that is. What does that have to do with you? Everything. Because every time you say, I am with consciousness, you are activating the same creative field that represents this greater consciousness. You are invoking the power of the universe's creator principle and directing it toward what comes after the I am. This is not a metaphor. It's the real mechanism behind the power of these two words. What comes after the I am becomes a command for the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind does not question, does not debate, does not assess whether it is true or false. She accepts as direct instruction and begins to organize behaviors, decisions, perceptions, and synchronicities to sustain that identity you have declared. If you say, "I am random," the subconscious mind accepts this as its identity and begins to filter out reality in a way that confirms this state. You become blind to the opportunities that are before you. You make decisions that sabotage positive outcomes. She interprets neutral events as confirmation that it is indeed random. If you say, "I am prosperous," the same mechanism works in the opposite direction. The subconscious mind begins to organize everything around the identity of prosperity. You begin to perceive opportunities that you did not see before, make decisions more aligned with abundance, attract people and situations that confirm and expand this state. That is why the "I am" is sacred. It is not an expression that can be used in any form, without conscience, without intention, without understanding what is being activated every time it is spoken. Each "I am" is an energy decree. It is a divine password that accesses the creative field and informs what one is choosing to be, have, and live. And there are 6 elements which, when combined, make this decree irresistible to the creative field. The first is the purification of the mind. Before any decree, it is necessary to work the beliefs of scarcity, fear, guilt, and indignation that still operate in the subconscious. These beliefs function as clouds that block the light of what you are trying to create. It is not possible to decree prosperity with your mouth while the subconscious is firmly convinced that you do not deserve to prosper. Purification occurs when one begins to identify these beliefs, question where they come from, and consciously replace them with beliefs that sustain what one wishes to create. The second element is observation of thoughts. Thought is the mold of the invisible. Just as a sculptor uses clay to shape a creation before it is melted into bronze, thought shapes what does not yet exist in the physical world. What you think with repetition and emotional charge is what is being constantly shaped in the invisible field, waiting for the conditions to manifest in the visible world. When you start to observe your thoughts honestly, you perceive patterns that previously operated completely beneath your consciousness. Thoughts that money is hard, that people like you don't get to certain places, that life will always be like this. These thoughts were creating the reality you were experiencing and you didn't even know it. Observation is the first step to change. The third element is to vibrate with intention. Emotions are the fuel of the decree. An assertion of the "I am," said without emotion, mechanically and automatically, has much less power than the same assertion said with genuine feeling, with the emotion of the state being invoked. When you say, "I am prosperous," and at the same time feel in your body the sense of prosperity, the gratitude of having had, the expansion of abundant life, you are sending a much clearer and stronger signal to the creative field that only words would convey. Emotion is the language that the quantum field understands most clearly. The fourth element is visualization. The brain does not precisely distinguish between a lived experience in the physical world and a lived experience with detail and emotion in the world of imagination. When you create vivid internal images of the reality you want to experience, your brain processes these images as real experiences and begins building the neural pathways that support this reality. To visualize is not to dream awake. It's using the most sophisticated tool you have, which is the mind, to create internally what you want to see externally. It is to live the scene before it exists in the physical world. It is to inhabit emotionally the future you are decreeing. The fifth element is to act with faith. The decree does not replace action. He transforms it. When you decree and then act as if you had received it, your actions have a completely different quality. You do not act out of fear of powerlessness. You act out of the certainty that the path is opening as you go. There is a huge difference between the action of the doubter and the action of the knower. And the creative field responds to this difference with absolute precision. The sixth element is unification with the source. In moments of silence, of meditation, of connection with what is deeper within you, you remember who you really are. Not the name you carry, not the role you play, not the circumstances you are experiencing, but the living, powerful, and creative consciousness that you are by nature. These moments of reconnection renew the clarity and certainty that underlie the decree. They remember that power is not something one must seek outside. It is already within oneself, waiting to be recognized and activated. Now, how can this be put into practice in a concrete and simple way? You will create at least 3 sentences with the I am that represent the states you wish to live. Short, direct sentences that resonate with you. Not phrases you think you should say, but sentences that, when spoken, create a sense of truth and power within you. It may be that I am prosperous, I am guided, I am abundant, I am healthy, I am loved, I am capable, I am protected, I deserve the best that life has to offer. You're going to repeat those lines every day. In the morning, when he is still on the pillow before putting his foot on the ground, and at night, before sleeping, when the mind is more receptive and decrees penetrate the subconscious with greater depth. And when you say these phrases, you won't repeat them like someone who recites something mechanical without understanding what he's doing. You're going to say each of them with the awareness that you're activating a code in the universe, that it is invoking the creative power that lives within you, that it is informing the field about who you have chosen to be. This takes 4 seconds per sentence. I am blessed. 4 seconds. And those 4 seconds, repeated with conscience and intention every day, have the power to rearrange your reality in ways you can't yet imagine. The decree of the I am is not a promise of an instant magical outcome. It is the beginning of a process of realignment between who you think you are and who you really are, between the reality you are experiencing and the reality that is available to you in the infinite field of possibilities. And this process begins at the moment you decide that the I am is sacred in your life, that you will never use it negatively again, that from today, every time these 2 words come out of your mouth, they will be followed by what you wish to be, have, and live. What separates the one who understands the decree of the I am intellectually from the one who really transforms his life with it is one thing: the consistency of daily practice sustained by the awareness of what is being done. Any powerful technique loses its force when it is abandoned. Any seed planted dies if not watered. Any hard-built neural path weakens when it is no longer traveled. Mental reprogramming works just like any other transformation process that requires continuous maintenance. Think of someone who decides to change their diet, lose weight, reach the body they wanted, and then conclude that they have arrived where they wanted and return to old habits. The result is predictable. The body returns to where it was because the inner environment that supported it has been recreated. The same is true of the mind. You can have the greatest knowledge of your life, deeply understand how the creative field works, begin to decree consciously, and see surprising results happen. But If at some point you decide that it has already arrived, that you know enough that you can quit the practice because it has done its job, the subconscious begins to push back into the old patterns. Not because you are weak, not because the technique does not work, but because the subconscious prefers the familiar, and the old patterns were built over years or decades of repetition. They don't disappear completely. They need to be overtaken by new patterns that are stronger, more consistent, and more entrenched. That's why the practice of decree is not something you do for 30 days and then end. It's something you incorporate as a permanent part of who you are. Just like you brush your teeth every day, not because you think you're going to forget how to do it, but because it's a maintenance practice that guarantees a result that you want to preserve. The daily decree is a practice of maintaining alignment between your consciousness and the creative field. And when this practice becomes part of their identity, it ceases to be an effort and becomes natural. You wake up and decree because you are who you are, not because you need to remember doing it. There is an aspect of the power of I am that has not yet been fully explored and which has a depth that deserves special attention. When you decree using the I am, you are not just asserting something about yourself. You are consciously choosing the version of yourself that will become dominant in your life experience. There are numerous possible versions of you, versions with different levels of prosperity, health, relationships, purpose. These versions are not fantasies. These are real possibilities that exist in the quantum field, waiting for their choice to collapse into concrete experience. Each decree is a choice of which of these versions you are bringing into reality. Every I am prosperous is a choice by the version of you that lives in abundance. Each of those I am guided is a choice by the version of you that operates in alignment with the higher intelligence that governs everything. Each healthy self is a choice by the version of you that inhabits a vibrant and energetic body. And the creative field responds to these choices by reorganizing circumstances, people, encounters, ideas, and opportunities around the version you have chosen to be. That doesn't mean everything will change overnight. It means that the process of change began at the level where all real change begins, which is the level of consciousness and identity. There is something to be said clearly about what happens when you start practicing the decrees consistently. The creative field does not operate only through great dramatic manifestations. It operates through small signs, coincidences that begin to multiply, doors that open where before there were only walls, people who appear with exactly what one needed, ideas that arrive at just the right moment. These signals are confirmations that the field is responding to what you reported through your decrees. Most people ignore these signs because they are waiting for something big and obvious, but the process begins in the subtle and gains strength as you continue to align, continue to decree, continue to hold inwardly the identity you have chosen. And when you learn to recognize these signs and receive them with gratitude, you feed the process one of the highest emotions there is. Gratitude is an accelerator of manifestation because it confirms to the field that what was decreed is already being received. Giving thanks before seeing is the advanced practice of one who understands that creation begins in the invisible. There is also a critical point that determines whether the decree will work or not, and that many people overlook. The decree cannot exist in contradiction to what you do immediately after doing so. If you decree that I am prosperous in the morning and then spend all day talking about how hard money is, how tight the books are, how people like you can never move forward, you're contradicting the decree with every word and every thought. The field does not distinguish between what you say in your decrees and what you say the rest of the day. It responds to the predominant sign. And if the predominant sign is scarcity and limitation, that is what will continue to manifest, regardless of how many times you have repeated the decree in the morning. Therefore, the practice of the decree must be accompanied by increasing vigilance over the quality of thoughts and words throughout the day. Not anxious and tense surveillance, which by itself creates a negative internal state, but a kind and consistent attention that, when it perceives a thought or a word of limitation, gently redirects toward alignment with what has been decreed. Over time, this vigilance becomes automatic. You simply stop thinking and speaking in ways that contradict what you have chosen to be. Not by effort, but because the new identity has become stronger than the old patterns. It is at this point that transformation becomes visible, not only internally, but in the concrete reality around you. There is a final element that binds everything said and represents the foundation from which everything emerges. You are not a human being trying to have a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual consciousness having a human experience. And as such, you don't have to become powerful. You already are. You don't need to seek the power of creating. He is already within you, waiting to be recognized, assumed and directed with conscience. The greatest awakening doesn't happen when you learn a new technique. It happens when you stop treating yourself as limited, unworthy, too small to have the life you want, and begin to recognize yourself as the powerful and complete expression of the universe's creative consciousness that you truly are. You have been created in the image and likeness of the greatest creative force that exists. This is not a nice phrase to encourage. It's the literal description of the power you carry. And with that power, you did not come to survive. You came to create, to flourish, to live in an abundance that reflects who you really are. The decree of the I Am is the key that opens this reality, not because words have magic in themselves, but because when they are said with awareness, emotion, conviction, and consistency, they realign their inner state with the creative field in a way that nothing else can do. Start today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Before going to sleep tonight, say at least 3 sentences of the I Am. Say it carefully. Say it with feeling. Say with the awareness that you are activating the creative power that lives within you. And tomorrow morning, before you put your foot on the ground, repeat 4 seconds per sentence. That's all it takes to open the key to a reality completely different from what you are experiencing today. Consistency in time will do the rest. If you've come this far, you know that this channel delivers something different. It delivers an understanding that goes beyond superficial techniques and touches the real foundation of how you create your reality. And if something said here really bothered you, then you know what to do now. Subscribe to channel. This simple gesture guarantees that you will continue to receive deeper content, which challenges the limiting beliefs still operating in your subconscious and offers you real tools for the transformation you have come to seek. We are no longer a passing channel of motivation. We are a space for people who are willing to assume the power they have always had. Click the like button. This helps to make that content reach more people who need to listen, who are not small, that the creative field responds to what they are informed, and that change starts with 2 words spoken consciously. And leave a comment right now. Right here, the first sentence of the I Am that you will decree from today. Put into words, make your choice public, because the statement you make here has the same power as any other, and starts working from the moment you write it. The channel grows when people wake up. You have already appeared. Now you stay. Universe, surprise me.